Friendship is supposed to be about love, trust, and shared experiences. But what happens when money gets in the way? In the second season of Friends, the gang runs headfirst into the uncomfortable reality of class differences. This episode doesn't just play the situation for laughs, it shines a light on a real issue that affects many friendships: how financial inequality can create guilt, resentment, and distance, even among the closest of friends. Can you really maintain a friendship with someone in a different financial circumstance? You're listening to Real Stories, Real Problems with Rachael and Roxanne.
Hi, Rachel. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh boy, have I got a lot to say about this episode. Uh, in Listeners, in the interest of full disclosure, I am 58 years of age. I grew up a latchkey kid, Gen X. I have never seen an episode of Friends in my life until this one.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
before you come for my head on a pike, it wasn't that I was deliberately ignoring it because I missed Seinfeld too. They both launched in the early 90s when I was in graduate school, getting my 2 PhDs. And anyone who's been to graduate school knows you eat, sleep, drink, So occasionally you reintroduce yourself to your parents, but I knew about Friends peripherally. I knew about Smelly Cat but I didn't know why it was supposed to be funny. So when Rachel suggested that we do an episode of Friends, I'm like, all right, damn it, this is it. And now, so thanks, Rachel. I have another show to binge. Only 10 freaking seasons.
It's okay.
I
It's
really,
so good. You're going to love all of it.
absolutely wonderful. So, but I will chime in as you go along because I've experienced pretty much everything that went on in this app.
Yeah, this was filmed in 1995. This was second season. And in 1995, that's when the Yahoo, the company, was incorporated. That's when the Oklahoma City bombing happened, where 168 people, including like 8 federal marshals and 19 kids, were killed at the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. That was the year that Christopher Reeve was paralyzed from the neck down after falling from his horse. And that was the year that members of the group Patriots Council were convicted in Minnesota under the Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act of 1989 for manufacturing ricin. Most of this
Oh,
I was not aware of at the time. I knew about the Christopher Reeve thing, and obviously I knew about the Oklahoma City bombing because everybody who was alive in 1995 knew about that. But
Tim McVeigh, right? Tim
yeah,
McVeigh.
Tim
Yeah,
McVeigh.
and they executed him, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what has happened to him since. I assume he was fried. Like, that's a lot of people. But yeah, so
No. He was. I remember it very specifically as I was working at the FAA, and we got an announcement, and it was quick. It was what was that, the FAA? I would say about 1999. He was yeah.
yeah. But
And
that
I remember all these things happening obviously as well, but I wouldn't put I couldn't remember they were all in 1995. Some of these things seem like they were 50 years ago or just last week. Like Christopher Walken. Sorry, Christopher Walken. Um, what is it with me and making people other actors? I knew about Christopher Reeve being paralyzed, but I never would have put that in the same time frame as Yahoo being incorporated.
yeah, it was a weird year for stuff going on, but like relatively tame and modern by modern standards. um 2025 like looked at 1995 and said, "Hold my beer." Like that.
Oh my, yeah, I got this.
But essentially, this episode of Friends is all about the concept of wealth disparity. And it opens with Ross at Chandler and Joey's apartment, and he's watching Spanish dwarfs wrestling. And,
Oh,
like you do. And I think listeners who were not alive at that time do not understand how much stupid frickin' TV you watch because there was nothing else on.
there was nothing else on.
Like, the land of streaming was far in the future, and you just watched what was being broadcast. You picked the best of the options out of what could have been 9 or 10 channels, or, could have been 700 channels if you had cable. Even with 700 channels, still could have been that was the best thing on. So
Yeah, yeah.
so this was
And the other
very
thing we're on, the other thing that was on are those things our parents didn't allow us to see. Near the end of the slide box.
but yeah, so they're just watching garbage TV, like you did in 1995. And the phone rings and Chandler's screening his calls. So he lets it go to voicemail. And it is a woman named Jade, and she thinks she's talking to an ex-boyfriend, Bob, and she's leaving him this message about, God, I miss you, and I wish we could have one more night together. And so Chandler like runs for the phone and bobbles it, and it's like, this is Bob, and he arranges this date. And it kind of goes from this moment of Chandler being, predatory and Ross watching garbage TV to the girl's apartment next door. They cut in between the scenes, and we're watching Rachel and Joey and Phoebe like sitting around a table, and then Chandler comes in and they're talking, and Ross is over in the corner, he's taking a phone call or whatever, and Chandler breaks it to them that they each owe him $62 for Ross's birthday. And they, like, you can see in their face that this is a huge deal. Like they were just asked to give up a month's rent or whatever. It was an enormous amount of money. And they were so like, if you've ever had that moment where somebody tells you something you're expected to do, and socially you have to do the thing, but that you don't want to do the thing, you could see them all wrestling with that in that moment.
I have so often not wanted to do the thing, but I've been tickled and grabbed and screaming into the thing. And the thing is usually expensive, you know.
Yeah, and if I'm doing the inflation calculator correctly, in
Mhm.
2025 dollars, that would be $132 thereabout. So it would be like if your friend came in and was like, "Hey, you owe me $132 for our friend's birthday." And that's a huge amount to just shell out for a birthday, especially if you're in a group of 6 friends and you're going to have to spend about the same amount on everybody's birthday.
Oh my God. Yeah, because every one of them's got a birthday. Well, you don't count yourself, obviously. So you're now going through your mental checkbook on, okay, Phoebe's is coming up next. And oh, Monica's not far behind. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're watching them deal with this, and then Chandler and Ross leave, and Rachel and Joey and Phoebe are left having this conversation about, I guess I'll just stay home and eat dust bunnies for dinner tonight because I can't afford to
Mhm.
feed myself. And they're kind of back and forth with this, like, they don't understand that we don't make any money. And at this point, Rachel is a waitress in a coffee shop, Joey is an out of work actor, and Phoebe is like a freelance masseuse.
Is that what she did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wouldn't know.
She
Hmm.
she later becomes a non-freelance masseuse, but
All
at this
right.
point, like, she's taking clients and she's not making a ton of money. And so we're watching them discuss this and how, they can't afford to go here and there every time there's a milestone. They can't afford to go out for celebrations and buy presents and stuff every time somebody's excited about something.
Mhm.
And if you've ever spent time with somebody who has money to burn, you know that feeling of watching them expect money to be spent.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean,
My town was not wealthy. So I didn't have to contend with most of that in high school. I mean, there was the well-to-do families that could afford to buy their kids the designer jeans, the Sassoon and Jordache and Baronelli. But it's when I hit college that I met the real money. And they weren't judgy or anything. Remember one of our earliest episodes about new wealth?
yeah, about born
That
rich and
Yeah, that is exactly, what it was like. And here's my little, like, upper, like, blue collar family. And the way we did birthdays was so awesome and we knew nobody had any money. We knew this. So we had to be creative for presents. We would make a mixtape for them with songs talking about our friendship. Um, we would buy them a large fries at the McDonald's, or one of us would bake cookies if we had like in the dorm, if you had access to kit, and they were awful because none of us knew how to bake, or we might, this is a big one, we may pool all our money and go to see a Sunday matinee for 550, baby. And the thing was, they had family to give them the good stuff. We just wanted to hang out. You know what I mean? And being together was the present. That
Yeah.
was it. And I don't think people are like that anymore.
Well, it's really strange because I grew up with a family who I was not poor by any stretch of anyone's imagination after the point of being about 5 or 6. My family was relatively broke up until that point, and then we managed to make it into regular, like, middle class, and we were okay, but the difference between that and the way my husband was raised, he was the child of his mom was the head of HR for major companies, and his dad was a very high-ranking, judge, and, like, he had all of this stuff,
I
and
didn't
they
know that.
oh, yeah,
Fascinating.
they had money, but they weren't like the Koch brothers rich, but you can see it when my husband and I go out to dinner, still to this day, after, 15 years of marriage, he wants to have a drink and an appetizer and an entree and a dessert, and I want a glass of water and an entree, and maybe we split a dessert. And like,
Yep, that's me. Yep.
but
Mm-hmm.
there is this, you don't have to worry about it. Order whatever you want approach to life for him. And it's not just restaurants. It's this, we should go out and do something. Let's get tickets to a Broadway show. Well, that's $150 for 2 people if we wait online for the TKTS booth. Could
Sure.
we go to a museum for $20 a person instead? Could we do that? But for him, the idea of having to table what he wants or pull back and not think and pull back and think about spending that money, it drives him bananas because he never had to think about that at all, ever when he was growing up. And his family loves to go out to eat. The pandemic broke his family because they could not go to
No.
restaurants, they could not go out to like movies or shows. They love to go out. It's got to be indoors, you got to be spending money, it's got to be a big deal. And so when I was like, "Hey, it's not a big deal. Why don't we pack a picnic and go over here?" And he's just like, "I want to rip my face off." Like and
No.
you could see that having money and spending it and not having money and having to think about it, like, that builds itself into the core of your DNA. And so seeing them on this episode of Friends have this kind of back and forth push and pull of, we have to do the thing. Our group is doing the thing. If we want to participate and support our friend and show her, like, we have to do the thing.
Right.
But we can't afford to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so as they're sitting there and they're having this conversation about how they don't have any money, Monica comes home and she's so excited and tells everyone she got a promotion at work. She was made the head of purchasing, and to celebrate, she wants to go out someplace nice. And you could just see it, you can just see it break Phoebe and Joey and Rachel like on their faces. They're
Mm-hmm.
just completely to a point where they just want to scream because how can you tell her no?
No, obviously not. And the thing, what this reminded me of is something I have been through 11 times, I counted, being a bridesmaid.
Oh my
At
God.
first, you're all excited. Yeah, your BFF's getting married. Okay. Bridesmaids, the gown, which is often in the hundreds, right? The shoes. You're going to want to get your hair professionally done, obviously. getting your nails done. Then there's the present to the bride and groom from the whole bridal party you have to kick in. And then there's your personal gift to the bride to cover the cost of the dinner. And I mean, what, we're up to 6 major expenses. Before my ex-husband and I were married, we were married in 94. In 93, we were invited to 4 weddings. Fortunately, we weren't actually in them, but then there's the rehearsal dinner, and it just and then of course I'm starting to think, okay, here's the wedding, now what's going to happen? The first baby, that's going to be a baby shower, that's going to be a present for the baby. And it's not like you just give a wad of Pampers and go home. It's almost like a status symbol, who can get the biggest SUV stroller, for the baby. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I've never said no, nor will I ever say no. But that, just when I get that, will you please be part of our wedding? What am I going to do to somebody I've known 35 years? So I totally get it.
Yeah. And so while they're dealing with this, and like we've been talking about here, this has such real world corollaries. We all have been on the receiving end of this in some fashion in our day-to-day lives, whether it's weddings or celebrations or, paying half the rent or buying a TV with a roommate or, all of the things. Like we've all been there. And so while they're dealing with this, Chandler goes on his fake date. Yeah, Chandler goes on his fake date.
Well, it's a real date.
Well, it's
Just
a real
a
date.
fake I don't.
She just doesn't know that it's fake. Um, and one of the things that's addressed later in the episode is that they do sleep together and she's not impressed with Chandler. But because this was 1995 and not 2025, there is no discussion about how that's technically a form of sexual assault to trick your way into sleeping with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
that's
They had
one of
sex under false pretenses.
yeah, that bit did not age well, but the rest of this episode aged like a fine wine because they go out to dinner and they're trying to celebrate Monica's promotion. And so Rachel orders a salad and Phoebe orders a cup of cucumber soup and Joey orders like an individual pizza and the others are ordering like carpaccio and grilled prawns and
Right.
catfish and like big meals that are very expensive. And when the check comes, the people with money are just like, okay, we'll split it 6 ways. And the other 3 are like, no, no, we won't. And this is the moment where they have kind of the discussion about, we don't have as much money as you do. And so this is a problem. We can't split this bill this way. And you could see them all get very uncomfortable because in America, there's nothing more uncomfortable than talking about money. Like, it's just, nobody wants to have that conversation. But they're having this conversation, and then Ross's birthday gets brought back into it, and they're like, "We love Ross. We want to celebrate with Ross, but the money for the gift and the activity and all the things." And so it comes out that they were going to buy him a present as a group and get everybody tickets to Hootie and the Blowfish for his birthday.
Jesus. I I think I went to a park once. Didn't get, but when you're done about talking about Hootie, I found the statute about thinking you're having sex with somebody else.
Oh my goodness. But yes. So they're going through this stuff and they break it down and so the group is like, "Okay, we're each going to just pay for what we ordered and that's fine. And then we will skip the Hootie and the Blowfish concert and just get a gift and it'll be fine." And but then everybody in the group is like, "Well, then we've ruined Ross's birthday. It's now our fault. He's not getting the party or the event that he thought he was supposed to get." And so they're having this uncomfortable back and forth, and they have this wonderful moment where Ross says, I just never think of money as an issue. And Rachel says, that's because you have it. And he says, yeah, that's a good point. Um, and so they are trying to address this. They're trying to have this conversation, and it's just so uncomfortable. And Chandler, like he does, makes an Ebola virus joke because he just needs to say something stupid and be tell a joke to make himself more comfortable.
Yeah, that's his defense mechanism. I
Yeah.
mean, after one episode, I can tell. All right, here's the statute. Okay. I typed in, is it illegal to have sex with someone when you think it's someone else? And I thought I'd come up with like a bunch of weird fan fiction, but all right. It says, yes, it can be illegal because the key element is consent, and mistaken identity can negate consent. If you have sex with someone believing they are someone else, the person you had sex with did not truly consent to have sex with you under those under those false pretenses. If you are deceived about the identity of the person you are having sex with, the consent that was given is based on a false promise and is therefore not valid consent for that specific sexual encounter with you. Hello, Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so that's it. See, aren't you glad you have me to like look up legal precedent?
but yeah, so this is watching them kind of go back and forth with all of this, and then, you know, Chandler dealing with his own stuff because, good God, that this is a weird and uncomfortable thing today to think about.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so as they're dealing with all of this, Chandler and Ross and Monica get together and put together a skit about how they're going to celebrate Ross's birthday and that they're going to buy Hootie and the Blowfish tickets for everybody. And it's so cute because they're doing like, I don't know, Monica, what's behind your bag? And she says, I have 5 steaks and an eggplant for Phoebe because we're going to celebrate with making dinner at home. We're not going to go out and spend the money
Well, and
on,
she's a vegetarian, right?
right, because
Phoebe?
Phoebe's a vegetarian. And then we're going to pay for the Hootie and the Blowfish tickets. We're going to have dinner here so we can celebrate. But now Rachel and Joey and Phoebe feel like a charity case.
I love Ross's, not Ross's, yeah, Ross's line where he says very stiffly, but wait, there's more, more, more.
And Chandler's like, this seemed less lame in the hall, I promise.
Yeah, it really did. I'm sure it did. And it came from a place of a good heart.
Yeah. And the poor friends push back. They don't want to feel like a charity case. And then the rich friends push back against that, saying that it's not their fault that they have money. They don't want to make anybody feel bad, and they are willing to spend the money to bring them in to be included in this experience. So
Mhm.
they don't understand what else they could do. And there is some truth to both sides of this argument. Like, I don't want to feel like you're giving me everything all the time, but also, if I have money and I'm offering to pay for something for somebody else, that's coming from a legitimate place. That's not coming from a, I want you to feel guilty. I want you to feel bad. That's coming from a, I feel like this is a way I would like to spend my money. And
I'll tell you, it's kind of a macabre experience, but I just recently celebrated, I guess, my 400th day of homelessness. Borrowing money is the worst feeling I have ever had. I was not raised to beg. My parents were children of the Depression. And reaching out is excruciating, just excruciating. And which is why I always have to text it because if I sob while I'm doing it. Um, and by God, I made this. If I won the lottery, I'd be freaking menace. I would. New cars would be showing up at all my friends' houses, not thinking through that they have to afford to pay the insurance on that car. Oh no, I'm just mortgages all paid off. Kids' college, except for those one or two kids that really shouldn't go to college in my family, all paid off. The other two, I'll send them to trade school. I mean, and I've always been that way, but now that I'm keeping this ledger in my head of I owe this 1,000, I owe this 1,000, I just um I have never, but I'll tell you this, I have never been told no. A lot of people, you included, and you can edit this out if you want to, have given me things I need more than money, like donating hotel points. So I'll have a safe night, where I don't have to worry about my jewelry being ripped out of my head or being raped or something like that. So I want to thank you publicly, Rachel. Thank you for doing that. Um, so it is hard. It is hard. It's especially hard when you are a generous person, like I believe I am in my heart. I'll be like, there's really no practical skill I can tutor. I can tutor French. It's I
Well,
can edit books, I can do all sorts of stuff like that. But it is very hard. I knew exactly how all of the 6 friends felt. I can see it on both sides.
well, and even like if I give something to somebody, I am never expecting any kind of reciprocity. I am never expecting like anybody to even pay me back. This is a lesson I learned in college. Don't loan money or give things away that you're not okay with losing, that you're not okay with that person having forever. And
Interesting.
and for me, like when I took a vacation with my daughter earlier this year, and we kind of went to a bunch of places around upstate New York and went and explored a bunch. The reason we stayed at the same hotel chain every time was so I could earn up enough points to give you a night in a hotel. Like that
Yeah.
was a thought out thing that I did for you because you needed it and it cost me nothing. So I was
Nothing
going
to
to need
stay
to
at the
stay in a
choice of
hotel.
right. Yeah, thank you. That was so thoughtful. I'm actually set up to cat sit. My friend Joanne, yeah, she is going to London from December 5th to December 18th. I will I'll save more money by staying with her, and I suspect she's going to pay me a little bit too on the side than the amount of money I'll lose at Bath and Body Works. So it's win-win. I'll have a safe place, and in New England, you're in New England, the snow situation, and if I need to go somewhere, I'll just Uber. I mean, it's really wonderful. But I think that the friends, like I said, on both sides of the issue, there was this little a bit of confusion. I was like, "Well, wait, why do you feel that way? Doesn't everybody feel like the way I do?" No, in fact, we don't. How do you feel that way? We thought of it. So I thought that was a great episode for me to launch into Friends
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
And like the group has this kind of like fight where well, we don't want you to spend your money on us. We're not a charity case. Well, we're gonna go do the fun thing. Like we already bought the tickets. And so the Chandler and Monica and Ross go to the concert and they're talking about how they're miserable without their friends. They're gonna leave, and then the music starts. And they're like, well, no, we can hang out. We can stay. Like we've already paid for it. We should, listen to at least one song. And
Right.
they run into a kid that Monica used to babysit, who's now like a lawyer or an agent or whatever for the band.
Lawyer.
And so they get invited backstage. And while they're doing all of this, Joey and Rachel and Phoebe are sitting at home playing guessing games with one another because they don't have nothing to do with their time. And they run into each other at the coffee shop later and they're comparing stories. And the rich friends are trying to hide the great time that they had. Monica's got a hickey from a blowfish at this party, and like they're they're back and forth with this. And then they start sniping at each other again, and Monica gets a page on her new work pager because this was back in the day when pagers were big.
Mm-hmm.
And she loses the job because the steaks that she got for free from the company that she's now purchasing steaks from were considered a kickback, and her employer has to
Mm-hmm.
fire her now. And
Mm-hmm.
she did not know that 'cause she's 26 and, this was 1995. She didn't know any better.
No, no.
And so now she is just as broke as the unemployed friends.
Right.
They all just kind of let the fight go. and they come together, and Joey offers to pay for her coffee, and he turns around to Chandler and he's like, "You can pay for her coffee." Right?
Oh no! Oh no! I laughed at the part where she, the lawyer says, you used to babysit me, and she goes, "Aren't you 8?" And the thing that made me remember this was I was at a multi high school class reunion with the firefighter I was dating at the time, and in at this party was another fire. He was another firefighter, but when he was younger, he worked at my father's company. I don't know why he left, but they were good buddies. And I recognized his last name because he wore his firefighter jacket. And I went, "Hi, are you Wayne?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Hi, my name is Roxanne. I'm Don's daughter." And he stared and he goes, What are you doing here?" Like, I didn't think I should be over 21. I said, "Oh, I'm so and so's girlfriend." And he goes, "See, you're only 25." Yeah.
That when you go for a long time without seeing somebody, the idea that they have aged is like weird for your brain. It doesn't connect all the way.
Yeah, and also when you're 20, everybody between the ages of 60 and 100 are the same age.
Yeah, that's pretty much true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're in this point where they have now had this moment where they understand that this is a level playing field. Any one of them can lose their job at any point. And
Sure.
you know, just a heads up for you, at some point in the show, each one of these people will lose their job and have to depend on the friends to kind of help them through stuff.
Help them
So
through. Yeah.
so their financial situations change over time, but they all kind of come back to realizing that while this was a difficult moment right now, we've all got each other's backs. That's what this is about. We need to love and support one another as friends. And if we need to, maybe do things a little bit differently in the future, we can. But that moment of Monica losing her job is just enough for all of them to
Yeah.
break out of this fight.
Yeah. Of course. Of course, maybe they'd have more money if they didn't live in those apartments that they live in. That
Oh, those are rent control apartments. That's why they can afford it. It's addressed
Oh
in like
god,
the
okay.
first episode.
Okay, I'll have to look that back up.
Yeah, in the first episode, Monica is going through her apartment with Rachel, who's moving in with her as a roommate. And Rachel's like, "Oh my God, what is this place?" And she goes, "It's rent controlled from my aunt. Otherwise, I could never afford to live here." And that's the thing that makes it so they can be in this huge, beautiful apartment. And it makes sense
Oh,
that they don't have to be rich to do that.
okay. That makes okay, good. I feel better now.
But yeah, so watching them kind of go through this whole process and remembering that they love each other more than they are uncomfortable about the money is an
Yeah,
important part of this episode.
right.
But yeah, so this was such a fun episode,
Yes.
with salt aside. Um, and to be able to kind of see them interacting together in this way, and especially once you've seen the whole series and you see their arcs and how they kind of their ups and downs of each character, it becomes a fun rewatch later. So
Right, right.
I'm hoping that you will enjoy that a second time through.
I'm sure I absolutely will. I mean, even if I had been cognizant during Friends, first run, I think I might have been a little too immature and callow to really understand. I mean, I lived with my mom and dad, I'd be like, why aren't they just asking mom and dad for help? So I think I was a little too young to appreciate that this is what adults do or problems adults face, relationships, money, jobs, where to live, because all that was taken care of for me when I was in my early 20s. So this will be an interesting social experiment for me as well.
Yeah, for sure. But thanks for listening to Real Stories, Real Problems with your hosts, Rachel and Roxanne. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into wealth disparity and the show Friends. Join us again next week for a glimpse into another financial problem and a documentary all about it. If you enjoyed our show today, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave us a review on your podcast app. Thanks for listening. See you again next week.
Bye for now.